Možeš i Hello, dear colleagues. Here we are, the final discussion of our conference. I must say I was very happy with the quantity and also quality of the presentations that we saw. We had 31 presentations and a keynote lecture, and I must say I think it's a good thing. Also, I must say that we were very popular on YouTube. Yesterday, almost 200 spectators, and today almost 80. So I think this was maybe a good idea. Although we had some minor technical issues, I had to unplug myself 3 times during the conference. So I think that's all normal. Before we proceed with our final discussion, I would like to ask Vesna, because there are many questions that are left unanswered for several of our today speakers. So as we said, we collected them, and now I will ask Vesna to read them, and hopefully we will have your answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. A few questions remained unanswered. We will now ask them. For Adela Kovac, did you recognize any use where on archaeological samples around holes that could indicate use of string? Is Adela present at the moment? I can't.
No.
See. No. We move further to Maria Manolova-Vojkova. Is Maria here with us? No, neither Maria is here. Daniel, are you with us, Daniel? We have 2 more questions for you from Zsofia Mashik. Do have the nuclear families also common vessels, or every vessel belongs to one person?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, can I ask?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can I answer? Sorry. Yes, I answer through the chat, but I will also tell the response here. Usually, every vessel belongs to one single person, because it's the one who purchased the vessel. There are not vessels that belong usually to the whole domestic context or the whole family. Usually, they only belong to one person, who is the one who made it or who bought the vessel.
Thank you. And Veli Tietzi, if I understand your research correctly, pots used by women have less durability and are substituted more often. Do you think we can establish a pattern between pots used by women and technological change over time? Or is pottery technology more prone to chance in relation to women's use?
I mean, there is a relationship in my case study. I don't know if this can be universally established, because the matter here is that pots, the pots used by women, are used on a daily basis to cook, to serve food, to do, the typical things of daily life. And this involves more pots broken, that more things break on the process. So they need to renew, to buy new vessels. This is why these vessels last less than the vessels used by men, that are usually just spent in the entrance, in the shrines, are not used so often, and used in other activities. So I think this is the reason why. It's the kind of use you apply to the vessels more than the gender. But in this case, the gender is really involved in the process.
More active way of usage by women.
Exactly.
Thank you, Daniel. Maria Manolova-Vojkova has joined us. Maria, we have one question for you. It left behind from your session. Could you tell us something about the fuel material? Was oil available for these households?
So can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, you can speak freely.
So about the fuel, we can only suppose that it was not in any case olive oil. As for this period, especially in Bulgarian lands, there was a very small import and exchange between Bulgarian and Byzantine Empire according to some political circumstances and special relations. So lamps that use olive oil are available only on the sea coast at the big cities, which were in fact remain in a Byzantine domain, let's say, even after they were included within the boundaries of Bulgarian kingdom, they still remained with predominantly Byzantine population. But inside the state for which I was speaking about, people didn't have access to such an oil. So we can presume that it was some animal fat, some tallow.
Thank you, Maria. Do we have any questions for our last speakers, for Goce Naumova and co-authors? Is there any raised hand or no? No, thank you. We get back to the one question. Professor Palavestra moved the discussion in the, we believe, right direction, one of the right directions. So please, Professor Palavestra, if you be so kind and turn your mic and video on for the discussion.
I did.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me? No?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
I don't know why, but never mind. Yes. I guess you can see me now. Though you, it's not very important. Well, perhaps I was not too clear why I raised that issue. I can now simplify it to case studies, more case study, personal case study. More than 20 years ago, I bought a frying pan, ceramic frying pan in a village of Zlakusa. Biljana wrote about Zlakusa, and you are all familiar with the importance of Zlakusa pottery for ethnoarchaeological research. And that I bought a pot with a lid and a frying pan juvec. I don't know the right translation in English. So the pot we managed to broke very fast, but the frying pan, baking pan actually, is still active in our kitchen. And it now looks completely different. If we, at the moment when we bought it, it was coarse, yellowish, gray, very coarse pottery with a lot of calcite, with everything shown. And our pot, broken pot, is still like that. But the frying pan, baking pan is completely black. It's very shiny. It's very fine. And if we were to excavate Vinca, if we find it on archaeological dig, and perhaps if it were to be found on Vinca in the 30s, we would say this, Professor Vasic would say this is Bucchero ceramic. This is very fine, black furnished, and it's all produced and it's all a result of baking and production, and it's visible on the frying, on this frying pan, as it is on my stomach, but I'm not going to show you that. So to come back on my general point, if we are to excavate it, never mind if it is a complete vessel or just a fragment, we would, in terms of our topology, put the lid or newly recently made product, recently made frying pan or pot that was not used, or in one category, and the one that has been used in my house for about 20 years, or in totally different category, in archaeological record, in our documentation, in our typology. And it would be something, perhaps even in our chronology. That is, I think, the very great importance of this symposium, and the use and the trace elements and the trace of use on a pottery. And when we are talking about importance of ethnoarchaeology and ethnoarchaeology, it's not just the production of vessels and pottery, it's or its use. It is important use, but also the destruction of pottery and discarding of pottery, that is also very important to be studied in ethnoarchaeological process, in order for us as archaeologists to understand the importance and what we are actually finding. That's why I think that ethnoarchaeology in this context and well, in general, is also very important for archaeology still, in spite of all theoretical variations since mid-60s and what we have been through. Thank you. I hope I've been more clear now than when I just intervened after Biljana's lecture. Thank you.
Okay, I forgot to unmute myself. I hope you can hear me now. Thank you, Professor Palavestra. Yes, I think you made your point, and it would be really great if other colleagues maybe have something to say concerning this issue. And of course, I will have to ask them to, yes, as Jim just did, to raise a hand. So please, Jim, join us with video and audio.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon, good morning.
Good morning.
That was a good question. And the question that he asked earlier too, excuse me, I think was also relevant. I want to mention that. And what I would say about the frying pan that has turned black, and that if they dug it up, it would, you know, they would put it in a different category or different type. And I would say to that use alteration analysis, like life itself, is full of trickery, and we have to there's multiple ways to get at different things. So some of the earlier people were solving these kinds of issues with experiments, of course. And I think it's important for us to further understand how these traces are formed. And so that's a good question. But to his earlier point, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. To his earlier point about how can people who haven't been doing use alteration analysis or functional analysis integrated into their wider program, I would say a couple of things to that. One is there's good examples of people that have done that. I mean, I went back and looked at Claire Burke's paper, and they have a fantastic program, and function was just added to their their analysis. And it's just a matter of doing it. But sometimes it's more than that. It's a matter of breaking traditions. And this is hard, breaking traditions of how people excavate things, process sherds, wash sherds, and refit, and think about not the sherds. And I mean, I think we have to it's helpful to discard this notion of sherds as a unit of analysis. And as I mentioned yesterday, to think about the whole vessel. And it takes some effort. But there's lots of good examples of that if people want to try it, and I hope they do. I think it should be part of every analysis. So that's my comment. Can I make another comment about?
Of course.
I listened to Claire Burke's paper, and she mentioned I don't know if she's listening or not. Is she participating?
She's here.
Oh, good. And she mentioned this white residue on the pottery, and I had a flashback of talking to Julian Vugue years ago, and being in his lab, and he asking me the same question. And so I know he's probably not on there, but I think you could contact him. I don't know if he resolved that or not. I mean, that's an interesting. I'm fascinated by that question, and I had no answers for him, and I have no answers for her, but I think maybe he has made some progress.
Thank you. Yeah, it would definitely. Hi.
Hi.
If you would be able to send me his contact details, or if I email you, we could
Sure.
do it that way. That would be really helpful. I know
Sure.
that, as I mentioned in my talk, Ava Rosenstock is looking at these white deposits in other places. So hopefully between us all, some answers will come out. And it might be, it's not just one purpose. It could be multiple things leaving similar residues.
Can I follow up? I don't mean to dominate this question and answer, but you thought, well, maybe it's a residue of perhaps a milk processing or cheese making, or do you think that would survive though?
Well, this is based on work that Ava's doing, so I don't really want to go too much into it because I don't know how much of her work is published, and I know that it's ongoing. But the residue work and things that she's done has suggested it could relate to making cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And I can send you her details if you're interested.
Yeah, I'm there's no cheese making in North America, in prehistorically, so I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, but I think there absolutely has to be more work done on this because, of course, the white residues don't always look the same, either at the same site or between sites. And I know Ava's also noticed that, and she's thinking of other things in relation to when it looks different. But as I say, I don't want to go into all of her work because it doesn't feel like my place to talk about it in detail.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
So that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask, does anybody else have some thoughts that wants to share with us, or some comments? This is a general discussion, so it would be nice if some of the colleagues raises his or her hand and starts maybe some other topic which was neglected during last. Okay, here is my colleague Vesna. I have to mute myself.
If I may add something to Jim's first comment, I think that more carefully one should be observed alterations on pottery from historical periods, especially the glazed one, which shows such changes to a lesser extent, or at least slightly different changes than on prehistoric pottery. We can see on prehistoric pottery due to its distinguished formal attributes. This is just one more thing to think about it when we approach into pottery analysis from antiquity or medieval or post-medieval periods. Just a small comment.
Okay, thank you, Vesna. I suppose this was also our idea to spread the methodology and pottery function analysis to historical periods, because in prehistoric periods it is, we can say, pretty common today. But I also wanted to say concerning the first question of Professor Palavestra, and after that what Professor Skibo said, I just cannot not to remember my first my start with the use alterations, because as Jim said earlier, there are different traditions, and what you see actually in the material considerably differs from the things that are seen in literature. So it was, for me, it was very frustrating when I realized that there is no traces of cooking on cooking pots. And for me, it was really something. I don't know. It was frustrating, and also I found that cooking was an action with bowls, which were considered as serving vessels. So once again, I have to thank Professor Skibo, because I realized, following his methodology, that people before me probably made some mistakes, and I had courage to say that. So this is something that I wanted to share here. Thank you.
So Jasna, hi. Can I talk?
Yes, please.
Okay. So following the line of thought of Alexander Palevstra, I just think that it is important to know, to be aware of the limitations of typology, and also paste analysis, petrography, and another kind of archaeometric analysis, just to try to solve the problems related to functionality and use, because it's something so complex that it seems that we are always trying to find the function behind the artifact, and it's something so complex, the many reuses and uses that can have a single pot, that is something very different to address sometimes. Now I think that we need all the kinds of analysis that promote a better approach. For instance, lipids analysis combined with typology, and also paste analysis, because our idea of function is really rooted on our Western viewpoint. That things can be used only for one thing, or mainly used for one thing. And I think the fact is that the reality is very complex, and if we want to try to know the social views behind the artifacts and the pots in this case, I don't know if typology or even only to having in mind the traces, use saturation traces, it's enough. We need really a multi-proxy methodology to really try to understand the social use of things. This is my opinion, following the Alexander Palestra, because it's so easy to classify the same pot or a pot with the same typology like this one. This is from Ghana, that is used for serving food to feed children, everything. But also to be used in a shrine. It's the same typology, it's the same pot. The same women made these pots. The same potter made this pot. So how can we really know that through archaeological record? So it's very difficult. We really need lipid analysis. We need to combine context, spatial information, and also archaeometric studies and typology. I think it's really complex, and we need to a lot of information to really address effectively these issues. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Professor Skibo raised his hand, please.
That was very good. I'm sorry. That was an excellent point. I think that I found this too, that typology sometimes gets in the way of functional analysis. And what I always tell my students, and what I've done myself, is it's important to do the typology and to learn that typology, because it's a way of communicating with other archaeologists. But what I found again and again is when you do use alteration analysis, it goes against the traditional typology.
Exactly.
And that's sometimes dangerous. You know, I did this example. One reason I did this example about seed jars in the Southwest, and archaeologists still call them seed jars in the Southwest.
Yes.
I mean, and they know they're not seed jars. And it's so, but so that's unfortunate. I think, you know, it's hard to change a classification, but at least you can add to it and provide some context to it. So I think that's a good point. It gets in the way, but it could also help us build the typology. You showed an example of pots that are identical, but they should have different use. Well, that's really cool. That's really interesting. And you'd only know that with use alteration analysis.
Yes, exactly.
I actually have a comment about Olga's paper.
Mhm.
Maybe
Yes.
I could, again,
Olga
I went
is
back and
here.
looked. Is she
Yes,
on?
yes,
Yeah.
she's here, yes.
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Again, I'm very jealous of all of you that have such diversity in your vessels, and I don't have that kind usually in my research, and that is really interesting. All these different activities that happen in pots, like cheese making and bread making. And what I was impressed with Olga's work was the way that she has done attrition or to the extent that I've never seen before, and it's really kind of really cool. And what I was fascinated by was, and that's my question, is this very aggressive attrition on the base of some of these. I think there were large bowls. And, you know, I don't know anything about bread making and relates to the ceramics, but I was just wondering, it had to have a very abrasive surface that I was on, number one. And then it's a very aggressive action stirring of, it made me think of kneading dough or something that would really grind like that. I mean, that's some pretty significant attrition. So I don't know what if she has a comment on that.
Yes, we will see, Olga, please.
I have some experience with kneading bread, but not in ceramic vessels. So I don't have this like experience with it. And I think that we really need experimental analysis, and especially with that one pedestal, the vessel that has really hard abrasion on the lower part of the vessel and on the base. It's really aggressive, and I don't know. I don't think it's connected with any kind of food preparation. I really don't know, and
Okay.
I'm really interested. And hopefully, we will have some project that will make some experiments and test these things, because it's really interesting to see if it's utensils, like wooden utensils, or just some kind of food that could make these attritions. So I don't know.
Also, after I saw your picture of all these sherds on the table, I don't know. I think that when people say, and a lot of people in Europe end up with tens of thousands, 1 million sherds sometimes, it's overwhelming. Of course, you don't have to do a use alteration analysis on all of it. It could be because you could just sample, because that would be 4 lifetimes of work. So I don't know how people do that. I mean, even processing that. So I should have brought that up during my talk. I think that people get overwhelmed by it, but it can be just sampling, simple as that.
Yes.
You can do 1,000 sherds. You don't have to do 100,000 sherds, you know.
Because it's painted pottery and it's very rare. So I wanted to see everything. And these 800 pieces from Starcho is like, oh, okay, it's a great assemblage, because we usually have 1, 2, or 5 sherds per site. So I wanted really to see them all. But I think that it's also related to the question that Professor Palavestra asked, and how we start with an assemblage from settlements, for example, because I'm currently working on a Vinci settlement, and we have, as you said, thousands and thousands. And if you are trying to record everything on every piece, even on every rim or every not just to forget body sherds, it's really a huge work. So I think that we have to rethink how we approach assemblages, and to approach them with specific questions in mind, and then to analyze specific things. And I tried to analyze everything, and it just it didn't work. Like,
yeah, maybe it was a different slide. If you only had 800 sherds, that's not too many. But there was some other slide. Maybe it was some Claire where I just saw this table with, I don't know.
No, it was from, but it's Vinci pottery, and
Okay.
I use it just to illustrate how much of sherds we usually have, but I didn't analyze them for this research.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I add just one word to this very interesting conversation? Because I like what you were speaking about, because it is always said that the typology and the other methods of analyzing the pottery are opposed to each other. I am strongly opposed to this kind of thinking, because the typology is very important, but it is the first step. It is the step how we should get knowledge about the pottery. We make some order in it. I don't know if it is good or not. Sometimes we realize that we have made a false order, but never mind. But the really important questions are coming after the typology, because then we can speak about the distribution, about trade. If of course in Middle Ages that is very common, then we can see what kind of usage was there, what kind of cooking or baking, or etc., etc. But everything should be made after the typology, because the typology is the first step to make some order in the material. So I think that that this conference was very good for this, that we saw that the good thoughts are coming when we are doing this dull business of typology, confronting with several hundreds or even thousands of sherds, having our head in pain what to do with this enormous quantity of sherds. Does it lead anywhere or nowhere? But the good things are coming after that. So that was my only remark to this.
Thank you, Miklos. I think Ilya Palaguta wrote us in chat panel something similar. I think we all agree that typology is a way of organizing things, of organizing material, but only as a first step, of course. I think everybody agrees on that. Yes, thank you. Anyone else, please? Does anybody has anything else to point out, please? To share some thoughts or comments? Vesna? Not for now. Okay, if we are probably some of the colleagues are maybe tired. This is the second day of really good work and tight schedule. So if there are no more questions, I would like to thank everybody, all of the speakers, all of the colleagues who were with us during the discussions. I also have to thank our young colleague Ugljesha and our students Peja and Dana, who were with us for 2 days and supporting our Facebook and YouTube channel. So this work couldn't have been done without them, and this is really good to have someone to support you. Of course, IT Center Faculty of Philosophy, which is also accidentally my husband. So yes, he had to be with us and to support us in with this. And of course, most of all, Professor Skibo, who supported us since, I don't know, more than a year ago when we started to think about this conference. So thank you all. I hope you enjoyed our conference. We for sure enjoyed it. And don't forget that we are already planning the next meeting in 2022, next year in May as planned. Hopefully this COVID situation will be finished until then, so maybe we can see each other in person in Belgrade. So thank you all. Have a nice day. And of course, we will be in touch for other steps. So Vesna, if you want to say something, please.
Maybe for the end, for the very end of this conference, we hope that seeds we sowed with the first BCAP will grow successfully. If not earlier, we see you at the next BCAP conference next year. Thank you all again for your participations, your presentations, and your support.
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.